The church was excitedly buzzing as I, Michael, stood at the altar, waiting for my bride, Jessica. The organist began to play the wedding march, and everyone turned their heads to watch her grand entrance. My heart swelled with love and anticipation as she entered the doorway, radiant in her white gown. Her smile was as bright as the sun, and for that moment, I felt like the luckiest man in the world. The ceremony went perfectly. Every vow and every kiss met with applause and joyful tears. We danced, laughed, and celebrated with our friends and family, making memories I thought would last a lifetime. As the night went on, I excused myself to retrieve a special gift for Jessica from our suite. When I reached the room, I opened the door quietly, not wanting to disturb the beautiful night. What I saw stopped me dead in my tracks. Jessica, my new wife, was in the arms of her ex-boyfriend, Tom. They were locked in a passionate kiss, oblivious to my presence. I felt as if the ground had been ripped from under me. My heart shattered into a million pieces, and I stood frozen, unable to comprehend the betrayal before me. The room spun, and I had to grip the doorframe to steady myself. Silently, I closed the door and retreated to the reception, the weight of what I'd just witnessed crushing my soul. I plastered a fake smile on my face for the rest of the evening, playing the part of the happy groom. Inside, though, I was dying. Every glance at Jessica, every congratulation from our guests, felt like a knife twisting in my heart. I couldn't believe that on the day meant to symbolize our eternal love, she had betrayed me in the worst possible way. That night, lying awake in our bed while Jessica slept peacefully beside me, I made a vow to myself. This wasn't going to end with a simple divorce. I wanted them to feel the same pain, the same sense of betrayal that I did. As I stared at the ceiling, I began to formulate a plan. I contacted a private investigator the very next day. Weeks I was past as he gathered evidence of their ongoing affair. Each new piece of information was another nail in the coffin of my trust, but it also fueled my resolve. I was determined to make them pay. Finally, I invited Jessica and Tom to dinner at our favorite restaurant under the pretense of working things out. They both arrived, looking nervous but hopeful. Little did they know, their world was about to come crashing down. During the dinner, I pulled out an envelope filled with photos and messages and tossed it onto the table in front of them. Their faces went white as they realized the extent of my knowledge. I told Jessica about my decision to divorce her and made it clear that it would cost her dearly. Tom, too, would face the consequences at his job, thanks to the evidence I'd sent to his employer. In the months that followed, I went through with the divorce, leaving Jessica with as little as possible. Tom lost his job and struggled to find new employment. I felt a sense of closure and justice. The betrayal had scarred me, but it also led me to a new chapter in my life. Eventually, I met someone new, a woman who truly loved and respected me. She helped me heal, and together we built a future free from the shadows of the past. Looking back, I realized that even the darkest betrayals could lead to new beginnings, and that sometimes the sweetest revenge was moving on to a happier, more fulfilling life. After the wedding, I couldn't bear to look at Jessica the same way. Every time she smiled at me, every time she touched my hand, it felt like a searing burn. I threw myself into my work, avoiding home as much as possible. Jessica noticed the change, but I deflected her concerns, blaming stress and workload. At night, as she slept peacefully beside me, I stared at the ceiling, replaying the scene of her betrayal over and over in my mind, each time feeling the knife twist a little deeper. The private investigator I hired, Robert, was a professional and discreet man. He assured me that he would get to the bottom of this and provide the evidence I needed. Days turned into weeks, and the wait was excruciating. Robert sent updates periodically, each one confirming my worst fears. Photos of Jessica meeting Tom in secret, messages filled with passion and deceit. The weight of it all crushed me, but it also steeled my resolve. Each new piece of evidence was like a brick in the wall I was building to protect myself from further pain. Jessica was oblivious to the storm brewing. She continued to act as if everything was fine, as if we were still the happy newlyweds. I played along, masking my true feelings behind a facade of indifference. Each day brought us closer to the moment of reckoning. Her laughter, her touch, everything felt like a cruel mockery of what I thought we had. One evening, Jessica suggested we invite Tom over for dinner. She claimed it would be a good way to mend fences, to move past whatever awkwardness lingered from their past relationship. The audacity of her suggestion nearly made me laugh. I agreed, seeing it as an opportunity to gather more information and to start setting my plan in motion. I could hardly believe she was so bold, or perhaps so naive, to think this was a good idea. When Tom arrived, the atmosphere was tense. Jessica tried to keep things light, but I could see the guilt in her eyes. Tom was equally uncomfortable, and I took silent pleasure in watching him squirm. Throughout dinner, I observed them closely, noting every furtive glance, every moment of forced cheerfulness. It was clear they were both trying to hide something, and their discomfort only confirmed my suspicions. I asked pointed questions, enjoying their stammered responses, and the way their eyes darted nervously. After Tom left, I confronted Jessica. I asked her point blank if there was something she wanted to tell me, giving her one last chance to come clean. She denied everything, tears welling up in her eyes as she pleaded with me to believe her. Her performance was convincing, but I knew the truth. I told her I needed some time alone and went for a long walk, trying to clear my mind and finalize my plan. As I walked through the darkened streets, my anger and resolve solidified. Back home, I lay awake, the evidence Robert had gathered burning a hole in my mind. I knew that simply leaving her wasn't enough. She had to feel the full weight of her betrayal. And Tom, he couldn't just walk away unscathed either. I needed to make sure they both paid dearly for what they had done to me. With the evidence in hand, I felt a grim sense of satisfaction. The photos, the messages, the timelines, they all painted a clear picture of Jessica's infidelity. I knew it was time to act, to bring this charade to an end. I arranged for a dinner at our favorite restaurant, inviting both Jessica and Tom under the guise of a reconciliation dinner. They both accepted, albeit with a hint of reluctance. Little did they know this dinner would mark the end of their deceitful lives as they knew them. The night of the dinner arrived, and I dressed in my best suit, feeling like an actor preparing for a pivotal scene. Jessica looked beautiful as always, but I couldn't shake the image of her with Tom. We arrived at the restaurant and Tom joined us shortly after. The atmosphere was tense, filled with unspoken words and hidden agendas. I could see the anxiety in their eyes, and it fueled my determination. As we sat down, I made small talk, trying to ease into the conversation. Jessica and Tom followed suit, though their discomfort was palpable. After the main course, I decided it was time. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the envelope containing the evidence. I placed it on the table and slid it towards Jessica and Tom. "Open it," I said, my voice steady and cold. Jessica's hands trembled as she opened the envelope, her eyes widening in horror as she saw the photos and messages. Tom leaned in, his face turning pale as he realized the gravity of the situation. "How could you do this to me?" I asked, my voice rising with each word. "On our wedding day, Jessica? And you, Tom, my so-called friend?" Jessica burst into tears, her hands covering her face. Tom stammered, trying to come up with an excuse, but there was nothing he could say to justify their actions. "I trusted you both," I continued, my anger boiling over. "And this is how you repay me? By betraying me in the worst possible way?" Jessica tried to reach out to me, but I recoiled. "Don't touch me," I spat. "You've destroyed everything." I stood up, the eyes of the other diners now fixed on our table. "I'm done with both of you," I declared. "Jessica, I'll be filing for divorce. And Tom, your employer will be hearing about this." With that, I turned and walked out of the restaurant, leaving them to deal with the fallout of their actions. As I stepped into the cool night air, I felt a sense of liberation. The weight of their betrayal was still heavy, but now I had taken the first step towards reclaiming my life. It was a bittersweet victory, but a necessary one. I knew there was no going back. In the days that followed, the news of our confrontation spread among our social circle. Friends and family reached out, some expressing shock, others offering support. I kept my head high, focusing on the path ahead. The divorce proceedings began in earnest, and I made sure Jessica would face the financial consequences of her actions. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of legal proceedings and emotional upheaval. I filed for divorce, ensuring that Jessica would get as little as possible. Our assets were divided, and I made sure to protect everything I could. The process was draining, but it was necessary for my healing. I attended every meeting with my lawyer, determined to come out of this with my dignity intact. Jessica tried to reach out to me several times, begging for forgiveness, and pleading for another chance. Each time I refused to see her. I had made my decision, and there was no turning back. The pain of her betrayal was too deep, and I couldn't imagine ever trusting her again. She sent me letters and called incessantly, but I remained resolute. Her tears, once a source of comfort, now felt like poison. Meanwhile, I followed through on my promise to make Tom pay. I sent the evidence of his affair with Jessica to his employer, along with a detailed account of his unethical behavior. Within days, Tom was called into a meeting and subsequently fired. The satisfaction I felt knowing that he was facing the consequences of his actions was immense. I heard through mutual friends that his reputation was in tatters, and he struggled to find new employment. With both Jessica and Tom out of my life, I began to focus on myself. I took some time off work, traveling and trying to find a sense of peace. I met new people, made new friends, and slowly started to rebuild my life. The anger and hurt gradually faded, replaced by a determination to move forward. I spent time reflecting on what I wanted for my future and setting new goals and priorities. One day, while on a trip to the coast, I met a woman named Rachel. She was kind, understanding, and genuinely interested in getting to know me. We spent hours talking, sharing our stories, and finding comfort in each other's company. Rachel had her scars from past relationships, and together we helped each other heal. She had a warmth and honesty that I found refreshing, a stark contrast to the deceit I had endured. Our relationship blossomed, and for the first time in a long while, I felt hopeful about the future. Rachel and I built a strong foundation of trust and mutual respect, something I had lacked in my marriage with Jessica. She understood my pain, and I understood hers. We were a perfect match, helping each other grow and move past our respective traumas. We took things slow, allowing our bond to strengthen naturally. Looking back on everything, I realized that the betrayal had ultimately led me to a better place. It was a painful journey, but it made me stronger and more resilient. I learned the importance of self-respect and the value of true love. Jessica and Tom were just a painful chapter in my life, one that had taught me invaluable lessons. In the end, I found happiness again. I built a new life with Rachel, one filled with love, trust, and understanding. The past was a distant memory, and the future was bright. I had avenged the betrayal, not with anger and bitterness, but by moving on to a better and more fulfilling life. And that, I realized, was the sweetest revenge of all. The process of rebuilding my life was not easy, but it was essential. I had to re-establish my identity separate from the man who had been betrayed. Rachel was instrumental in this journey. Her patience, kindness, and understanding created a safe space for me to heal. We spent countless hours talking, often late into the night, about our pasts, our hopes, and our fears. Her presence was like a balm to my wounded heart. We started doing things together that I had never done with Jessica. We took long walks on the beach, cooked meals from scratch, and explored new hobbies. Rachel introduced me to painting, and although I wasn't very good, I found it therapeutic. The act of creating something, no matter how imperfect, was a powerful reminder that I could rebuild my life. Rachel had her scars, and as we shared our experiences, we found solace in each other's stories. Her past relationship had been tumultuous, marked by lies and emotional abuse. She understood my pain in a way that few others could. Together, we worked through our issues, supporting each other every step of the way. Our bond grew stronger with each passing day, built on a foundation of honesty and mutual respect. Despite the progress we were making, there were still moments of doubt and insecurity. Trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. I found myself questioning my instincts, wondering if I would ever be able to trust someone fully again. Rachel sensed these moments and never pressured me. Instead, she offered reassurance and patience, giving me the time I needed to heal. One evening, as we sat by the fireplace, Rachel turned to me and said, "Michael, I know you've been through a lot. I can't promise that everything will be perfect, but I can promise to always be honest with you. I'll never betray your trust." Her words were simple, but they meant the world to me. For the first time in a long while, I felt a glimmer of hope. I realized that while Jessica's betrayal had left a deep scar, it didn't define my future. I had the power to choose how I would move forward. Rachel and I continued to build our life together. We took weekend trips, explored new cities, and even started a small garden in our backyard. Each new experience was a step towards healing, a brick in the foundation of our relationship. I began to see a future with Rachel, one that was filled with possibilities and free from the shadows of the past. As my trust in Rachel grew, so did my confidence in myself. I started to take on new challenges at work, pursuing projects that I had previously avoided. My colleagues noticed the change, commenting on my renewed energy and focus. It felt good to be moving forward, to be reclaiming the parts of my life that had been overshadowed by betrayal. Rachel and I decided to adopt a dog, a playful golden retriever named Max. He quickly became a beloved member of our household, his boundless energy and unconditional love bringing us even closer together. Caring for Max was a constant reminder of the joy and love that still existed in the world, despite the pain I had endured. Through all of this, Jessica occasionally reached out, trying to make amends. She sent letters, left voicemails, and even showed up at my office once. I remained steadfast in my decision to move on. I knew that reopening that chapter of my life would only bring more pain. My focus was on the future, on the life I was building with Rachel. Tom, on the other hand, had disappeared from my life entirely. After losing his job and reputation, he moved to another city. I heard through mutual friends that he was struggling, but I felt no sympathy. He had made his choices, and now he was living with the consequences. I had no room in my heart for forgiveness, only for moving forward. Months turned into years, and my life with Rachel flourished. We bought a house together, a cozy place with a big backyard for Max to run around. It was our sanctuary, a place where we could escape the world and focus on each other. The walls were adorned with our memories, photos from our trips, paintings we had created, and little mementos from our adventures. It was a home filled with love and laughter. Our relationship continued to grow deeper and stronger. We supported each other through the ups and downs, celebrating our successes and comforting each other during the tough times. Rachel got a promotion at work, and I was there to cheer her on. When I faced challenges at my job, she was my rock, always offering words of encouragement and wisdom. We decided to start a family, a decision that filled us both with excitement and a little bit of fear. The journey wasn't easy, but we faced it together, knowing that we could handle anything as long as we had each other. Rachel became pregnant, and the news brought us closer than ever. We prepared for the arrival of our child, turning one of the spare rooms into a nursery and reading every book we could find on parenting. As Rachel's due date approached, I found myself reflecting on how far I'd come. The pain of Jessica's betrayal was now a distant memory, overshadowed by the happiness and love that Rachel had brought into my life. I realized that while the past had shaped me, it didn't define me. I had the power to create a new narrative, one filled with hope and possibility. The day our son Ethan was born was the happiest day of my life. Holding him in my arms for the first time, I felt a surge of love and protectiveness that I had never experienced before. Rachel and I looked at each other, tears of joy streaming down our faces, and I knew that we had created something truly special. Ethan brought a new kind of joy into our lives. His laughter, his first steps, his curious exploration of the world, all of it was a testament to the love Rachel and I shared. We watched him grow, amazed at every milestone, and grateful for every moment. Our family was complete, and I felt a sense of fulfillment that I had never known before. As Ethan grew older, Rachel and I made sure to teach him the values that were important to us: honesty, kindness, and resilience. We wanted him to understand that life would have its challenges, but that he could overcome anything with love and support. Watching him develop into a compassionate and curious young boy filled us with pride. Our home was filled with the sounds of laughter and the pitter-patter of little feet. We spent weekends playing in the backyard, going on family outings, and reading bedtime stories. Rachel and I cherished these moments, knowing how precious they were. We made a promise to each other to always prioritize our family, no matter what. Looking back, I realized that Jessica's betrayal had been a catalyst for my transformation. It had pushed me to reevaluate my life, to confront my pain, and to seek out what truly mattered. While the journey had been difficult, it had led me to a place of profound happiness and fulfillment. I had found a partner who loved and respected me, built a beautiful family, and created a life that I was proud of. In the end, the pain and betrayal were just chapters in a much larger story, They were necessary steps on the path to finding true love and happiness. As I held Rachel and Ethan close, I knew that I had finally found my new beginning. The future was bright, filled with endless possibilities, and I was ready to embrace it with open arms. Life had settled into a comfortable rhythm. Ethan was growing up quickly, each day bringing new adventures and discoveries. Rachel and I were as close as ever, our bond strengthened by the family we had built. It seemed like nothing could disrupt our happiness. However, the past has a way of resurfacing when you least expect it. One sunny afternoon, I was at the park with Ethan, watching him play with Max. Rachel was at home, enjoying some much-needed rest. My phone buzzed in my pocket, and I saw an unfamiliar number. Hesitant, I answered. "Hello?" I said. "Michael, it's Jessica." Her voice was tentative, filled with an emotion I couldn't place. My heart skipped a beat. It had been years since I last heard her voice. "Jessica, what do you want?" "I know this is unexpected, but I need to talk to you. It's important." I felt a wave of conflicting emotions. "I'm not sure there's anything left to say." "Please, Michael, just one conversation. It's about Tom." Hearing his name stirred something inside me. I reluctantly agreed to meet her, curious and wary. We arranged to meet at a small cafe downtown the next day. The next morning I told Rachel about the call. Her face reflected my unease. "Are you sure you want to meet her?" she asked. "I think I need to hear what she has to say," I replied, squeezing her hand. "I'll be back soon." At the cafe, I spotted Jessica immediately. She looked older, wearier, but still the same woman I had once loved. We sat down, an awkward silence stretching between us. "I know I hurt you," she began. "I've thought about it every day, but this isn't about the past. It's about Tom." "What about him?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "He's in trouble. He's been involved in some shady business deals and now he's missing. I thought you might know something, or be able to help." I was taken aback. "Why would I help him after everything he did?" "Because, despite everything, you're a good person. And because I don't know where else to turn." Her words hung in the air. I didn't know what to think. Tom had betrayed me in the worst possible way, but was I capable of turning a blind eye if he was in real danger? "I'll think about it," I said finally, standing up to leave. That evening, Rachel and I discussed the meeting. She listened patiently, her concern evident. "Do you think you can help him?" she asked. "I'm not sure, but I feel like I need to at least try. For closure, if nothing else." Rachel nodded. "Just be careful, Michael. Remember how much you've been hurt." The next few days were spent looking into Tom's situation. I reached out to old contacts, trying to piece together what had happened. The more I learned, the more I realized how deep he was. It wasn't just bad business decisions, it was criminal activity. One evening, I received a call from an unknown number. The voice on the other end was panicked. "Michael, it's Tom. I need your help. They're after me." "Tom, where are you?" I asked, my heart pounding. "I'm hiding out in an old warehouse on the edge of town. Please, you have to help me." Against my better judgment, I agreed to meet him. I didn't tell Rachel, not wanting to worry her. As I drove to the warehouse, my mind raced with thoughts of what I would find. When I arrived, Tom looked haggard, his eyes filled with desperation. "Michael, thank God. I didn't know who else to call." I approached him cautiously. "What happened, Tom? How did you get into this mess?" He explained how he had gotten involved with a group of criminals, thinking he could make some easy money. But things had quickly spiraled out of control. "I need to get out of town," he said. "Can you help me?" I hesitated. Helping Tom meant putting myself at risk, but leaving him could mean his death. Despite everything, I couldn't walk away. "I'll help you," I said. "But this doesn't change anything between us. After this, we're done." Tom nodded, gratitude and relief washing over his face. "I understand. Thank you, Michael." We made a plan for Tom to leave the city and start fresh somewhere far away. I used some of my contacts to secure him a new identity and a way out. It was risky, but it was the least I could do to close this chapter of my life for good. Tom left town under the cover of night, and I returned home, feeling a mix of relief and unease. I had done what I thought was right, but I couldn't shake the feeling that there were still loose ends. Rachel sensed my turmoil and encouraged me to talk about it. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching Ethan and Max play, I opened up to her. "I helped Tom leave town. I couldn't let him die, but I'm worried it might come back to haunt us. Rachel took my hand in hers. You did what you thought was right, Michael. That's all anyone can do. But if you're worried, maybe we should look into it further. Her suggestion made sense. I decided to dig deeper into Tom's associates, hoping to find some closure. I contacted Robert, the private investigator who had helped me before, and asked him to look into Tom's former dealings. A few days later, Robert called me with the news. Michael, there's something you need to know. Tom was involved with a very dangerous group. They won't be happy that he disappeared. My stomach sank. What should I do? Lay low and stay vigilant. If they come looking for him, they might come to you. I thanked Robert and hung up, my mind racing. I needed to protect my family. I discussed the situation with Rachel, who remained calm and supportive. We'll get through this, she said. Together. Despite the tension, life went on. Ethan was starting school, a milestone that brought joy and pride. Rachel and I focused on making sure he felt safe and loved, despite the undercurrent of unease. One night, as we were getting ready for bed, Rachel received a call. It was her old friend Sarah. They talked for a while, and I noticed Rachel's expression shift from surprise to concern. After she hung up, she turned to me. Sarah mentioned something strange, Rachel said. She heard that Tom's disappearance has stirred up a lot of trouble in his old circles. They're looking for anyone connected to him. Her words confirmed my worst fears. We need to be careful, I said. I'll talk to Robert again and see if he can find out more. Robert's investigation revealed that Tom's former associates were indeed searching for him, and they were getting closer. We took precautions, installing security systems and being extra cautious about our surroundings. I kept in touch with Robert, who provided updates and advice. One evening, I received a call from Jessica. Her voice was frantic. Michael, they found me. I need help. Where are you? I asked, trying to remain calm. I'm at a motel on the outskirts of town. Please, I don't know where else to go. I told Rachel about the call. She looked worried, but supported my decision to help Jessica. Be careful, she said, hugging me tightly before I left. When I arrived at the motel, Jessica looked terrified. I don't know what to do, Michael. They threatened me. I took a deep breath. We need to go to the police. It's the only way to keep you safe. Jessica hesitated, but finally agreed. We drove to the police station, where I explained the situation. The officers took our statements and promised to look into it. As we left the station, Jessica turned to me. Thank you, Michael. I know I don't deserve your help, but I'm grateful. I'm doing this because it's the right thing to do, I replied. But after this, we're done. You need to move on and stay away from anything related to Tom. Jessica nodded, tears in her eyes. I understand. Back home, I told Rachel about the night's events. She listened quietly, then hugged me. I'm proud of you, she said. You're doing the right thing. In the days that followed, the police investigation led to several arrests. Tom's former associates were taken into custody, and the immediate threat to our safety diminished. Jessica moved to a different city under a new identity, and I hoped it would be the last I'd hear from her. Rachel and I focused on our life with Ethan, cherishing the peace that had returned. We knew there would always be challenges, but we were confident in our ability to face them together. The past had tried to haunt us, but we had emerged stronger. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our porch, Rachel turned to me. We've come a long way, haven't we? I smiled, holding her close. Yes, we have, and I wouldn't have it any other way. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I felt a sense of contentment. The past was behind us and the future was bright. We had faced our demons and come out stronger. With Rachel by my side, I knew we could handle anything that came our way. The tranquility that followed the arrest was a welcome relief. Ethan continued to thrive, Rachel and I grew even closer, and life felt like it was finally moving forward without the weight of the past. Yet, a nagging feeling in the back of my mind reminded me that not all the shadows had been dispelled. One evening, as Rachel and I were enjoying a quiet moment on the porch, my phone rang. It was Robert. Michael, I have some troubling news, he said. Some of Tom's former associates who weren't caught are still looking for answers. They believe you might know where he is. A cold shiver ran down my spine. What should I do? Stay alert and keep your family close. I'll continue to monitor the situation. I thanked Robert and hung up, feeling a mixture of fear and determination. I knew we needed to be proactive. Rachel, we need to take extra precautions, I said, explaining Robert's warning. Rachel nodded, her face serious. We'll do whatever it takes to protect our family. We ramped up our security measures, ensuring our home was as safe as possible. I also reached out to a trusted friend in law enforcement for additional advice and support. It felt like we were living under a constant cloud of tension, but I was determined to keep Rachel and Ethan safe. One night, as I was tucking Ethan into bed, he looked up at me with innocent eyes. "Daddy, why are you and Mommy so worried all the time?" I forced a smile, trying to reassure him. "Sometimes grown-ups have to deal with scary things, but we're doing everything to keep you safe. You don't need to worry about anything." Ethan nodded, seemingly satisfied with my answer, but it pained me to see him affected by the situation. I kissed him goodnight and went to join Rachel in the living room. We sat in silence for a while, the weight of our concerns heavy in the air. "We'll get through this," Rachel said, breaking the silence. "We've faced worse and come out stronger." I squeezed her hand. "You're right. We have each other, and that's what matters most." The next few days were a blur of heightened vigilance and constant checking in with Robert. Then, one evening, as Rachel and I were preparing dinner, the doorbell rang. We exchanged a wary glance. I approached the door cautiously and peered through the peephole. To my surprise, it was Tom. He looked disheveled and desperate. I opened the door slightly. "What are you doing here, Tom?" "I had nowhere else to go," he said, his voice trembling. "They're still after me, and I need your help." Rachel appeared beside me, her expression a mix of shock and concern. "Tom, you shouldn't have come here," she said. "You're putting us all in danger." "I know, and I'm sorry," Tom replied. "But I have information that could put an end to this once and for all." Reluctantly, we let him in and sat him down at the kitchen table. He explained that he had evidence of his former associates' illegal activities, evidence that could lead to their arrests and dismantle their operation. "I've been gathering this for months," Tom said, handing me a USB drive. "If you can get this to the right people, it'll be over." I looked at Rachel, who nodded in agreement. "We'll take it to the authorities," I said. "But you need to leave, Tom. It's too dangerous for you to stay here." Tom agreed and left shortly after, promising to stay hidden until the situation was resolved. The next morning, I met with my friend in law enforcement and handed over the evidence. He assured me they would act on it immediately. Days passed, and we anxiously awaited news. Then one afternoon, I received a call from my friend. "We've arrested several key members of the organization," he said. "Tom's evidence was crucial. You and your family should be safe now." Relief washed over me as I thanked him and hung up. I turned to Rachel, who was watching me expectantly. "It's over," I said, smiling. "We're safe." The relief that followed the dismantling of Tom's former associates' organization was palpable. For the first time in a long while, I felt like we could finally breathe freely. Rachel and I celebrated the news with a quiet dinner at home, cherishing the sense of peace that had returned. As the weeks went by, we slowly settled back into our routine, this time without the constant fear hanging over our heads. Ethan continued to thrive, and Rachel and I found new ways to strengthen our bond. We made a conscious effort to focus on the present and future, leaving the past where it belonged. One evening, as we were sitting on the porch watching the sunset, Rachel turned to me. "You know, we've been through so much. I think we should celebrate how far we've come." I smiled at her suggestion. "What do you have in mind?" "How about a family vacation? Somewhere we can all relax and enjoy ourselves, without any worries." The idea sounded perfect. We decided on a trip to a beach resort, a place where we could create new memories and enjoy each other's company. As we planned the trip, the excitement in our home was infectious. Ethan couldn't stop talking about building sandcastles and swimming in the ocean. The day of the trip arrived, and we packed our bags, ready for a week of relaxation and fun. The resort was beautiful, with pristine beaches and clear blue waters. It felt like a dream come true. We spent our days exploring the area, trying new activities, and simply enjoying each other's presence. One evening, as we sat by the beach watching the waves, Rachel took my hand. "This is exactly what we needed," she said. "A fresh start." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of contentment. I couldn't agree more. This is the beginning of a new chapter for us. The vacation was everything we had hoped for and more. We returned home feeling rejuvenated and ready to take on whatever the future held. Rachel and I continued to nurture our relationship, always making time for each other and Ethan. One day, as we were playing in the backyard, Ethan looked up at me and asked, "Daddy, are we always going to be this happy?" I smiled and hugged him tightly. "Yes, Ethan, we're always going to be this happy because we have each other." As the years passed, our family grew stronger. Ethan blossomed into a kind and curious young boy, and Rachel and I found new ways to support and love each other. We faced challenges together, always coming out stronger on the other side. Looking back, I realized that the trials we had faced had only served to deepen our bond and make us appreciate the good times even more. The past was a part of our story, but it didn't define us. We had written new chapters filled with love, resilience, and hope. One evening, as Rachel and I sat on the porch watching another beautiful sunset, she turned to me with a smile. "You know, we've come a long way from where we started." I nodded, feeling a profound sense of gratitude. "We have, and I wouldn't change a thing." In those moments, as we added yet another cherished memory to our family day journal, I realized that we had not only survived our past, but had built a beautiful future. The love and trust we shared had become the cornerstone of our family, something steadfast and unbreakable. Our bond, forged in the fires of hardship and healed through unwavering support, had given us the strength to face any challenge. As I looked at Ethan's bright, innocent smile and Rachel's warm, loving eyes, I knew that nothing could ever take that away from us. We had transformed our lives, moving from the shadows of betrayal and fear to a place of light and joy. Each page of our journal was a testament to our resilience, a story of a family that had chosen to rise above the pain and find happiness together. It was more than just a collection of memories. It was a living, breathing testament to the power of love and the unyielding strength of the human spirit. Rachel squeezed my hand gently, her eyes reflecting the same profound realization. "We've come so far," she whispered, her voice filled with emotion. "And we'll keep going, no matter what." I nodded, feeling a deep sense of peace and contentment. "Yes, we will. Our journey has just begun, and there are so many more beautiful moments to come." As we closed the journal and tucked it away, I felt a renewed sense of purpose and gratitude. Our family was our greatest achievement, and the love we shared was our most precious treasure. Together, we had rewritten our story, one filled with hope, strength, and an unbreakable bond. And as we continued to create new memories and face the future together, I knew that our love would guide us through whatever lay ahead, ensuring that our family remained forever united and strong.